Welcome to Odoo Pilot. In this video, I am going to explain how we can use implementation mode in Odoo Pilot. First, I will go into my workspace or I will start a new chat while clicking on this new chat button. And now from my modes, I will select the implementation mode. In implementation mode, I have already created some prompt to test this. I will copy this prompt and go back here and copy paste this prompt here. So what actually this prompt is telling to implementation mode is we have to set up the inventory module for a steel manufacturing company, create a warehouse named main steel warehouse, create location for raw materials, finished goods and scrap, create product hot rolled steel coil, product type storable product, unit of measure kg, client vendor information is also given here, and also set the purchase price to $1.20 per kg. Add national steel supplier as the product's vendor. Create an opening stock of A250 kg in raw materials location. So these are basically the implementation which we have to do through the Pilot Studio. Before the implementation, one thing we have to keep in our mind: implementation mode and Pilot Studio mode need direct connection with the database. If your database is not connected to your project, your workspace, then you cannot use implementation and Pilot Studio mode. How you can check is your database is connected to workspace or not? You can click on this workspace, you can go there down, and here is update project. So my database is already test database is already connected here. So I will cancel this. If your database is not connected, you can also go through here by edit and you can add database name, URL, username and password, and then you have to click on verify button. Odoo Pilot will verify your connection with your workspace and Odoo database which you want to connect. Here I will select the Odoo version. This Odoo version is being detectable automatically through when you connect your database with Odoo Pilot. There is another thing like when you create a new project and you want to use other modes, then you can by clicking on this checkbox, you can skip this connection also. My database is already connected, so I will give my prompt here and I will run this prompt in my implementation mode. So when I will run my implementation mode, Odoo Pilot will analyze my all prompt requirements and then will create a list of tasks from that prompt. After processing your requirement, Odoo Pilot will create task on the right side. So you can also click on view task button and this right side window will open up for you. So here you can see I give my prompt and Odoo Pilot on the basis of AI, he divided the task into different tasks. Like you can see we have 4 tasks here. First task is install inventory. If I click on this, install inventory, purchase product and unit of measure apps. The second task is, if I click on this, create the warehouse and internal stock location. Third one is the create the vendor and steel coil, and the fourth one is the load opening stock into raw materials location. So these are all tasks which is being created by Odoo Pilot. So when I click on my first task, so you can see here Odoo Pilot has given all the information: install the required standard apps, so warehouse, internal location, storable product, vendor price list and kilogram unit of measure can be configured. So this is the information. Because this information is being analyzed by Odoo Pilot and there may be some mistakes. So for example, before running any task, you can go through the requirement so you can actually see what Odoo Pilot has to run. If you find any kind of issue with the requirement, you can click on this 3 dot and edit task. You can give the correct information which you want to run through the Odoo Pilot through this task. It can optimize your credit usage and in a one go you can achieve your results. So for these instructions are looking fine to me. I will click on this task and I will click on the proceed button. Now Odoo Pilot will run this task for me. So if I go here Autopilot has started this task: install inventory, purchase, product, and unit of measure. So this is live because this thing is happening live into your database. And if I look into the execution logs, so all the execution logs which is Autopilot will be run, we can see here. So there are step 1 of 3. So first, Autopilot is checking app module statuses. Installing the next step is installing app modules, and third step is checking app module statuses after installation. After few seconds, Autopilot has installed these applications directly into the connected database. So if you look into here, so install this is now this task is done. And in the summary, I can say apps installed for inventory setup. The required standard apps are installed and ready for the next inventory configuration task. This is installed inventory done, purchase done, and the other product and price list done, and unit of measure is also done. If I click into this response, there are three options: execution logs, re-implement, and rollback. In execution logs, when I click here, I can see what actually operations or what actually methods Autopilot has runs. So while clicking on this, I can technically see what actually Autopilot has done through this execution. In success tab, we can see how many success operations Autopilot has run. In failed, if there is anything which is failed, I can check through this failed tab, and we can see if there is any operation which is failed. In rollback, if the rollback, because this rollback execution is already exist, for example, you have done any wrong implementation, so you want to roll back that implementation part. If that rollback exists, then Autopilot will allow you to roll back that execution area. You can click on this roll back this execution, and Autopilot will revert this complete feature which he has done during that during that prompt, so during that task, sorry. So this is basically, and what is the rollback? As I explained here, you can find rollback also here. While clicking on this, system will ask your approval. You click on rollback and system will revert these changes to default. So what is re-implement? So re-implement is basically, so for example, Autopilot has run some task which it has partially done. In some task, when the information is incomplete, Autopilot done that task only partially. So if you want to re-implement that task, you simply click on this re-implement button and add the additional information which Autopilot has missed in their previous execution. Through this, you can add the additional information, spotting details. If there is any spotting documents you want to attach, you can upload those files here, and you can create and run that task. What Autopilot will do, Autopilot will create another task here, and another subtask under that task where we have re-implement that specific part. So it will create a subtask under the install inventory purchase product if I re-implement that task. Now the next thing is there is mark as reviewed. Before mark as reviewed, we have to check, does this thing actually done in our database or not. In my Odoo database, if I go there, so this database was a fresh database when I connected with Odoo Pilot. So Odoo Pilot has successfully installed purchase, inventory, and if I go into the inventory module, so unit of measure, you can see Autopilot had set to the kg, because in our requirements we have given this information. So I will go into the Autopilot again. I will check this mark as reviewed. Now this task is done. When a task is done, when we do a mark as reviewed, then in our checklist this task will be green, means this task is done. You can see all this, also this task here. Now I will move into my next task, which is create the warehouse and internal stock locations. So in this, create main steel warehouse and add internal child location of raw materials, finished goods, and scrap under the warehouse stock structure, reusing any extra match records if they already exist. What I will do, I will proceed this task. and Autopilot will analyze this requirements, this task information, and start working on it. So this is live means this is doing action live into our database. Autopilot has run a number of operations to execute the second task. When I go here and click on execution logs, I can see there are 7 tasks which are successfully completed. 7 operations which are successfully completed, and there is no any failed operation. If I go here, there are 2 rollback operations are here. Like if I go into the success, I can see first Autopilot has verified some information related to the stocks and warehouses, and then it has created that warehouse into the Autopilot. If I go into the rollback, you can see if you want this created stock warehouse operation or task, we can roll back if needed. Now this task is successfully implemented. Now we have to check, does these things happen in our live connected database or not. If I go into my Odoo and I click on the configuration and I will click onto the warehouse, you can see there is main steel warehouse which Autopilot has created for us. If I click on here, so this is the warehouse which Autopilot has created for us. So this is how you can create do implementation through the Autopilot, which is the basically main module of Autopilot. What is the core power of this implementation mode is you can run every task one by one. You other like the other LLMs, we have to give the information and we do not know what actually they are doing and what actually they have done. Through the implementation mode in Autopilot, we can run each task one by one. For example, there is something which Autopilot has missed. We can add that task by our own. So while clicking, you can see there is a new task. For example, we are working on implementation and client comes up with a new information, and we know that this task is dependent on some other task. So while clicking on this add task button, we can create the new task here. We can give the task title, for example, install payroll app, and I can give my instructions here. If there is some attached documents you want to upload, you can attach here. Here is the dependency part. In dependency part, for example, for the testing purpose, I will add this is our test. For the dependency, there are 4 tasks. On which task this is dependent? I will say this task is dependent on create the warehouse and internal stock. What is the dependency means? This task will be executed after the second task. Means when the create the warehouse internal stock location task will be done, then we can run this third task. I will add this information here, and information which is missing you can add here. I will add a task, and Autopilot will create that task in our task list. You see this installed payroll app is here, but this task is totally dependent on our task 3. We can run this after, like when the task 2 is completed. If you want to create any, and if this task is done, sorry. So this is how you can create task, and if you want to create a subtask, you can re-implement that task and system will automatically create that subtask under that task, main task. So this is how implementation mode you can use. You can run each task one by one. You have the full visibility of execution logs. You can clearly see what Autopilot has done, and you can technically see the information where this thing is done and what Autopilot has done. You have the power of rollback if something bad happens or you have done some implementation wrong. Through the Autopilot, we have full control. We can roll back that functionality to its original position. If a task which is partially implemented due to misinformation or due to misunderstanding of Autopilot, we can re-implement that task by giving further information, and Autopilot will re-implement that task again. So this is how you can use Autopilot. I hope this video will be helpful for you and give a clear information how you can use implementation mode in your Autopilot. Thank you for watching. Take care.